Well, I am excited. I'm so excited today. This is Kathleen Gage, by the way, with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. And today I've got Georgia Bamber. And Georgia is a highly accomplished professional. She's an elite athlete. And I'm just going to read a little bit about her background because this deserves a really clear description of who she is and why I'm excited to have her on the show. She's a success coach, a speaker, and author of the book, Achieve Anything You Want. Using practical tools and mindset strategies, she teaches people to make positive changes and create the time to reach their goals, which we all can use more of. Her mission is to help as many people as possible to live the most happy, healthy, and vibrant lives that they can. She has a diverse academic, professional, and personal background from which she draws in her coaching and speaking. As well as being a certified coach, Georgia is a graduate of Cornell University, has an MBA, a master's in psychology, and is certified in plant-based nutrition. Talk about a high achiever. This is amazing. She's also a wife and a mother of 2 teenage boys, an endurance athlete, a plant-based lifestyle advocate, and she knows what it's like to do to juggle between motherhood, entrepreneurship, and maintaining a healthy mind and body. So welcome to the show, Georgia.
Thank you, Kathleen. And that was quite an introduction. Thank you.
Well, I have to say that when we talked before you coming on the show, I was so impressed with your background. And I'm curious, have you always been this driven?
Yes, annoyingly okay. So. I have.
Okay. And when did you go plant-based?
It's been over 5, almost 6 years now, I believe. Okay. So quite a while back, and I was vegetarian for many years before that. So,
well, give us some background on that. You started out vegetarian, and now you're plant-based vegan. So, tell us about your journey from being a vegetarian to going plant-based.
Well, I originally went vegetarian way back in my boarding school days when I was 16, and for a really self-centered reason that the food was better for vegetarians than it was for the regular people. So that's when I first went vegetarian. But as I kind of got older and got into it more, just became the way that I lived, the way that I ate. And I converted from vegetarianism to veganism, mainly, I think, for health reasons and when I had a greater understanding of the environmental impacts of all animal-based foods. So that's why I made that change. But it was also because around that time we'd moved to our own farm, and I got a much greater understanding for the lives of animals and how they interacted socially, and it just really raised my awareness around all of that. So I think it was, I went vegan for all the reasons, for health reasons, for environmental reasons, and for the animals.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because more and more people are understanding the connection between compassion for animals and what we eat. And even though I've worked in the pet industry for years, it took me quite a while before I really connected the dots of here I'm compassionate to animals on one level and I'm eating them on another level. Yeah. And it's like, yes. Okay, there's a major disconnect. Now, you're a success coach in your business. Tell us what it is that you do in your business.
My main focus is helping people to create change, any kind of change. Mm-hmm. It could be change in their business, in their career, in their weight, in their relationships, whatever it is. I find that people struggle. They often know what it is that they want, and they even know what they need to do, but translating that into actually going ahead and doing it is where the kind of gap lies for a lot of people. So I help to fill that gap and show them how to create that kind of pathway to success so that they can start achieving the things they want in their life.
Well, give us an example of somebody that you've worked with, no names, but just a kind of a general overview of somebody you've worked with that was really resistant to change, but with your coaching, they were able to make the changes they wanted to.
I suppose when people come to me, they're slightly less resistant to change in the sense that that's why they're seeking a coach. So I do get people who don't hire me as a coach, who do speak to me and they just want that magic pill. They just want to wake up the next morning and everything be different, or they want things to be different, but they don't want to have to do anything different. And that's obviously impossible. So by the time people have signed me up as their coach, they pretty much accepted the fact that if they want something different in their life, they're going to actually have to make some changes. So I think that's the definite first step with anybody, to accept the fact that you can't have something different without making some changes in your life. So a client I had recently, he has come to me because he's been in the same career for, I think, 15, 16 years, and he's just getting bored and frustrated and not going where he wants to go. So I'm working with him to understand the fears and the blocks he has around moving to something different. And on the flip side of that, helping to figure out what it is he actually wants moving forward. So that's a typical example of somebody who comes to me. They know that they're dissatisfied with what they have now, but they're not quite sure about what's going to make the difference and what they need to do to get out of that space.
What do you find is the number one reason for people who say they want change, but they're not willing to make that change? Besides being lazy, for one, it's like, I want the magic pill. So they're not willing to put the work in. But what would you say is the core factor in them not making the change?
It's always fear, but the fear for people is different. So it's the fear of change. Nearly everybody fears that to some extent. It's the fear of what people might think of them. It's the fear of failure. I mean, there are so many different fears, but I think underlying people's unwillingness to change is always some sort of fear. So it's figuring out what that block is, which releases people then to move forwards.
And how would you recommend, to just kind of a general recommendation on how people can identify what their fear is and then move through it?
I think listen to the way that you talk to yourself when you are thinking about doing something different. Hear the things that are coming up in your brain. See what that's saying. Listen to your excuses. Those will usually lead you towards that direction of what it is that's holding you back, the excuses that you're telling yourself. So I think that the self-talk is a really big key in understanding what's going on.
Okay. Because I would imagine that people aren't even aware of the negative things that they say to themselves.
Absolutely.
How can they track that? What are some strategies?
That's one of the first key things that I teach clients that come with me to see me is creating that awareness. So the way that I get people to tap into it, because we have thousands and thousands of thoughts going through our head every single day, and most of us are completely unaware as to what's going on in our brains. And that's unfortunate because our brains affect how we feel. And then, of course, our feelings affect how we act. So there's this big knock-on effect from what's going on in our brain to what's actually happening to us in the world. So a really great way to tap into those thoughts is whenever you're feeling uncomfortable or angry or excited or whatever it is, just stop and think, where does that feeling come from? And you can tune into what's going in your brain by kind of being more aware of what's happening in your body. So that's one really good way of figuring out what it is that you're thinking.
Excellent. Now, I know that you're an athlete. What are the different things that you've done as an athlete? You've done a triathlon, or probably more than one?
Triathlons, mainly long course triathlons, although this past year I haven't done anything because, of course, everything is being cancelled. And I really love ultra running and trail running. So those are my kind of three main things that I do.
And when you say ultra running, what does that mean?
That's anything that's longer than a marathon. Typically, like 50K is your shortest ultra run.
That's incredible. I've done 2 marathons, and I hold the distinction of coming in last. I'm not an ultra runner. I'm not a fast runner, but I finished. And I look at people like yourself that do 50Ks, 100Ks, and 24-hour runs, and I'm just in awe. What's the mindset that you have to keep going with a race like that?
I think doing these kind of endurance events has really actually just completely changed me as a person and helped me in all the things that I'm doing in life. And I think the mindset that you've got to have is that you have to realize that, of course you need to have done the preparation, but really completing any of these things, it's all about what's going on in your head. You have to have a certain fitness level, but beyond that, it really is your mind. And one of my key mantras that I always say to myself when I want to quit is how you do anything is how you do everything. So every time I want to quit, I just think, no, I'm just going to keep going. And for me, it's about being an example, particularly to my kids, just to show them, I've signed up for something, I put in the work and I get it done. And I think that's what really drives me, is just to be that example, to show that you can do stuff if you just keep taking action. You keep putting that foot one step ahead of the other, and you'll eventually get to the end. So
absolutely. And I know when I was doing my first marathon, and it was difficult because I didn't train right. It was after my mother passed away, and I think it was more of a healing process for me. But it was at mile 16, at mile 19, at mile 23. I was like, what was I thinking? And it happened to be on Mother's Day, and I was doing it as a tribute to my mother. And that kept running in my brain. It's like, I don't want to quit because this is my gift to her. How does that relate to what's going on in the world right now with how people are responding to the pandemic, how they're getting sucked up into negativity? And because I saw something recently with the first shutdown we all went through, a lot of people got into exercise, and they, saw it as a short-term situation. And now they realize it's more long-term, and they're not exercising as much. They're watching TV, and they're getting further and further into depression, things of that nature. So what's your recommendation for people in dealing with the pandemic around their health and fitness?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I think with anything, you have to look at your motivators, and you have to have a reason. So understanding your reason why is really important. So if your motivation is flagging, you've just got to check in with yourself and look why. And also, I think on the flip side of that, sometimes people rely too much on their kind of motivation and willpower. Like those things really kind of wane, don't they? We all know that, like on a Friday, on a Monday morning, we're really keen to kind of get in there and do something new and change our habits. And come Friday night and come the weekend, then that all just goes out the window. So be aware that, the motivation cycle, comes in ebbs and flows, and don't beat yourself up about that. And I think when kind of the first lockdowns happened, everybody just went in really hard. We were going to get through this and it was all going to be good. And then they moved the finish line on us. Okay. And that's been the problem. And when that happened, that's when people lost heart, I think. And so I think people just need to start easy again, set that bar really low for themselves, and make things a habit as opposed to just this big big push, which I think is what happened. You want to just make it a daily thing. So I always recommend that they set the bar super low. So if you want to be doing exercise every day, just set yourself 5 minutes to start. And eventually you just build up from that. And then you have that habit going.
I like that. Set the bar low so that you can achieve it, so that you don't set yourself up for failure right away.
Absolutely.
Now, let's talk about plant-based eating and people who they know that a diet change would be good for them, but they say, oh, I could never give up cheese, or I could never give up whatever it may be. How do you work with clients on their health and nutrition around their eating, and they want to switch to a plant-based diet, but they come up with every excuse in the book?
So I think with things like that, I think it's to help them firstly understand that those things that they're telling themselves, they're just stories. They're not facts. Okay, if you say, I could never do that because I can't give up cheese, that's not a fact. That's just an opinion. It's a story. So to show them that they can tell themselves a different story. They could tell themselves a story that, well, maybe I could give up cheese. Why don't I give it a try? That's so different from saying I could never give up cheese. So just move them that little bit closer to open that door to possibilities. So I think understanding that the things that they're telling themselves is stories is really key, and creating that awareness around that. So that would be the first step. And again, it would be for them to understand why they want to do it. Look, tap into their motivators, their reasons for doing it. And that really helps people kind of connect with the why and creates that momentum to keep them going.
Right. So let's say that somebody wants to make the change. What are 3 steps that they can take that would move them closer to having a healthy diet and going plant-based?
Well, there's quite a few things to consider, isn't there? The type of person that you are. First of all, I think there are some people who can just go cold turkey, give everything up and jump straight into it. And that's great. If you're that kind of person, that can work well. But there's a lot of other people who need to take it slowly. They need to maybe, there's all different approaches, isn't there? There's the kind of, you cut out the 4 legs and then the 2 legs and then the swimming animals, and then you drop the kind of dairy and the eggs. That's one approach. There's all different ways that you can, or maybe you just eat vegan for breakfast and then you move to vegan for breakfast and lunch. There's lots of different ways you can do it. So I think firstly, understanding what kind of person you are is super helpful. If you go in trying to give it up all at once and you're just not that kind of person, it's not going to work for you. So I think to have some kind of plan as to how you're going to approach it is really key, for sure.
Well, and it's interesting because I'm a very black and white person when it comes to that. Too. I went in 100%. Yeah, I can tell you are, definitely, with your background and all the degrees you have. And but I like what you said about give up first the 4 legs, then the 2 legs, then the swimming animals. I've never heard that before, and that makes a lot of sense. And I know that for me, when I first went plant-based, I did it for health because I had inflammation and I did a lot of research and everything indicated that if I gave up dairy and animal-based products, the inflammation would go. I thought I'll give it 7 days. Within 2 days, the inflammation was gone. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I started losing weight. And it's the first time ever I didn't see this as a diet because I had given up on diets. I was about probably 35 pounds heavier than I am right now. And I don't have to watch my calories or anything. But now I stay for the animals. I came for health and I stay for the animals. How much does the whole issue of animals have to do with you being a vegan?
I was exactly the same as you. That was the last reason I would have cited for going vegan, but now it would be the first reason. So I think it is something people come to veganism for all different reasons. And I think more and more these days, because people are more health conscious and more environmentally conscious, that is the kind of the doorway for a lot of people. But once you open that door, you start to learn so many things. And inevitably, I don't know a single vegan who isn't ultimately doing it because of the animal rights issues.
Absolutely. And I want to remind people that this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. And I'm talking with Georgia Bamber. And Georgia, how do people get in touch with you?
The easiest way is to just drop into my website, which is georgiabamber.com, or you can find me on Instagram at Georgia Bamber. And actually, I recently just joined Clubhouse. I don't know if you're in Clubhouse yet, but you can find me there.
Okay, we're going to talk about that because I've gotten so many invitations to join, and I'm like, oh, not another social platform. And so, again, repeat your website, and then let's talk about Clubhouse.
It's georgiabamber.com. So that's georgiabamber.com.
Great. And we'll put that in the show notes. But okay, let's talk Clubhouse. I have heard a lot about it. I tell you, I'm resistant because I'm actually thinking of getting off Facebook. I'm just overwhelmed with all the social platforms. So why did you join Clubhouse? What are the advantages?
Well, I am with you. I am almost kind of wanting to opt out of Facebook after all the stuff that's been in the press over the last few weeks. And then I got blocked from my Instagram account last week for no reason whatsoever.
Wow.
So I'm really down. The reason I joined Clubhouse is because it's a very new platform. And I think the opportunity to get into something so early is huge. If you want to kind of raise your profile and things like that, it's a great time to get in and do it. I think there's 2 million people on Clubhouse now, and they're expecting about 50 million people by June. So it's just growing astronomically. So I think if you can get a footprint in there now, kind of claim your territory, then you've got a lot of scope for raising your profile and getting a lot of people knowing about what you do. So I think for the vegan platform, it's brilliant. There's rooms for everything. So you can talk about anything and you can really spread your message. So I think there's a lot of scope for that. And another reason I've got it's an amazing networking tool. I've only been on there for about 2 weeks now, and I'm already making connections with a whole bunch of different people, and different opportunities are coming up. So it's quite phenomenal.
Well, how does it work? Because I understand that it's audio only. What's the whole premise behind it?
I suppose it's kind of like a podcast where people can talk back to you in a way. Like you could get on there now, you could be having a room, having this conversation, and I could be there and there could be other people listening in, but you could also invite them to join the conversation. So you could use it almost as a podcast medium, but with interaction from your audience. So that's quite fun. And there's all kinds of rooms. There's rooms where people just kind of drop in and say hi. There's rooms where you learn about technical things. There's rooms where you can discuss your views. There's so many different ways that you can use it, but there is a definite downside. It is a complete time suck. I mean, you could spend hours of your day on there. So I think if you're going to do it, and the way I'm going to do it is really as a business tool. I want to use it to connect with people, to let people know what I do, and also to help people. So I'm thinking next week, I'm going to be starting my first rooms. I'm going to have kind of coaching office hours where people can jump in and just get a little bit of spot coaching to kind of learn about what I do and get a bit of help. I'm going to do some mindset tips, things like that. So just offer those kinds of things to people.
That's interesting. So how do people find you on, it's WhatsApp? Is that what it's called? WhatsApp? Clubhouse. Okay.
Yeah.
There must be something else that was, okay. Clubhouse. So how do people find you on Clubhouse, and can people that you don't want to find you, can they pop into your room? How does that work?
They can, but you can block people from your room. So if you're getting people in there trolling you or just being rude or whatever, you can block them. Yeah. And people just you just put people's names in. So for me, my handle is at Georgia B, but I guess they can find me by putting in Georgia Bamber as well. So, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because what I find is sometimes you do get trolls around the whole vegan topic where, you'll post something
not just
on Twitter.
not just on social media. You only need to kind of go to a party and you'll find them.
It's crazy. It's like, that there will be a discussion, a thread about healthy eating and different food choices. And somebody will come in and go, yeah, right now I'm eating bacon with cheeseburgers. And it's like, do you really need to do that? Because I think that if people understood the whole premise behind what an animal gave up to be on their plate, I think a lot of people would change their mind. But what I find really interesting is the denial of people who say, oh, I don't want to see those films. I don't want to know about it. Well, when ignorance is not bliss in this.
No, just because you've got your head in the sand doesn't mean it's not happening out there. Yeah.
I actually just posted something on social media with a plate of chicken wings, barbecued chicken wings. And next to it, I said, when you eat this, think of this. And it was 2 little baby chicks. And I thought, maybe when people see that connection, maybe they'll make a different choice. But speaking of different choices, what would you say would be the most important thing that somebody could do in today's environment with the pandemic, with health and fitness, with the fact that diabetes is out of control, heart disease is out of control, high blood pressure? I mean, it is truly out of control. And a lot of people would rather get a vaccine to fix the disease rather than fix it before it even
it's the magic pill again, which is what we were talking about earlier. Everybody wants the magic pill.
Oh my gosh. And I see these lines of people that are waiting overnight, and elderly people, and I'm thinking, there's got to be a better solution. And so what are your thoughts around how people can actually set them up for a healthier lifestyle in spite of or because of the pandemic?
Well, absolutely. Anything that kind of improves your immune system is going to help you with any disease that comes along. So not just the pandemic, but all the diseases that are out there. And as we know, the best way to improve your health is by going plant-based. I mean, there are so many things, I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, but there's tons of information, as you and probably most people listening here know, about the benefits of going plant-based for health. And it's going to improve your immune system, and it's going to make you feel better about yourself, and it's going to make you a better weight. All of those things are going to make it much less likely that you're going to get sick from anything. So it's a no-brainer, really. It's just another reason to go vegan, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, I'm talking with Georgia Bamber. And Georgia, again, give your web address so people can find you. GeorgiaBamber.com. Okay. And again, tell people about your services that you offer so that if people want a high performance coach, they can come to you and find out more about what you do.
Yeah, so basically I work mainly with private coaching, although I will be starting up a group coaching program later in the year. And I help people just to create change in their life, to create those successes they're looking for. I think that everybody is able and capable of having a truly amazing life. We all have our own unique potentials. Problem is, so many people out there are living these kind of humdrum, everyday kind of lives because they don't realize what they're capable of, or they don't have the skills yet to kind of go out there and make things happen for themselves. So my mission in life is to have as many people living as amazing lives as possible and to help them really flourish. And that's what I find. I help people to find that sweet spot between the kind of the talents that they have, the opportunities that they have, and the interests that they have. I help them to bring those all together and find that, that sweet spot so they can really start living lives that makes them happy and keeps them healthy and keeps them vibrant and enthusiastic.
I love it. I just saw a movie called Penguin Bloom, and it was about Sam Bloom, who had an accident. She became a paraplegic, and she was an athlete and a very active woman, and went into a depression. And then she actually tapped into that place inside of her that was a high performer, and she became a kayaker and won Olympic gold or something. I mean, it was just phenomenal. Yeah. And it's really amazing when people don't tap into that, how depressed they can be. And when they do, when they have a coach like you who can help them to go to that next level. But I'm curious, What would you say has ever been your greatest failure, and how did that serve you in your life?
Oh gosh, that's a tricky one. I suppose. Oh, I don't know. You put me on the spot now, Kathleen. I can't think. What is my greatest failure?
You didn't expect that. Tell me about your biggest success. No, I want to know about your failure and how did that work for you? I don't think I've had an epic failure, but like everybody, it's just those little daily failures that pop up that you need to deal with. So I think there are many instances in my life where I didn't take opportunities that I should have taken. I think when I went to university, I studied what I thought I should study as opposed to what I was really interested in. It was not, I think my biggest failures in life have come from not following my heart, not following what I wanted to do and listening to the values of others instead of listening to the values of myself. And I think that's what I've learned as I've gotten older and slightly wiser and, 47 now. And I've got a lot of experience under my belt, and I've learned to really listen to myself, because every time that life went not quite in the right direction was because I was listening to others or even just society. So I think that's key. Well, and you really just hit on something about following your intuition and following your passion. How do you recommend that people do that? Because I know right now a lot of people are in a great deal of fear because of the pandemic, because of the economy in the U.S. Our economy is tanking, and we're going through a big thing where the government is going to be sending out stimulus checks, and right now they're not coming out. So people are just in a place of being so immobilized. How do they follow their passion while the whole situation of the economy is going on, and they have to put food on the table?
Absolutely. And I think firstly, you can use this as an opportunity because to really understand yourself. A lot of us have been taken out of our normal daily situation. And in a way that's been good. We've been able to step off that treadmill. We don't have some of the kind of, all the busyness that we used to have in our life. So it's been a great time for people to kind of assess what it is they do like in their life and what it is that they don't want anymore in their life. So I think taking some time out to reflect on your experience is really good. But in this situation where everything just seems so out of your control, life can get a bit depressing and you can feel really uncertain about what's coming next. So I think it's about understanding what you can control in your life and focusing on those things. So you can't control what's happening with the pandemic. You can't control the economy. You can't control whether you're going to get a vaccine next week or not. All of those things are out of your control, but you can control the way you think about it, and you can control the actions you take. So it's about working on your mindset and making sure that that is in the right place. That is what's going to keep people positive. That's what's going to keep them moving forwards. It's having that mindset that looks forwards, I suppose, as opposed to worrying about all that stuff that they can't change. It's unproductive.
Right.
So worry about the things you can change, and you can change how you think, and you can change how you act.
Excellent. Excellent. So in closing, again, I want to thank you, Georgia, for joining me on Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. This is Kathleen Gage, and I've been talking with Georgia Bamber. In closing, what are your final thoughts for people so that they can have a more compassionate, passionate, and high-level life?
Ooh, tricky one. So you can have a more compassionate life. Again, know your own values. And if compassion is one of your values, you need to really explore that. And if you truly are a compassionate person, you need to be compassionate to all sentient beings out there. And you can't be that without addressing the kind of vegan and plant-based issues. So I think be true to yourself, be true to your values, and that is going to take you exactly where you need to go in life.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. And for everybody that's been watching and listening, I encourage you, go out, live large, live compassionately, and live with passion. This is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for your commitment to an ethical life through plant-based food choices. The kind of choices that are kind to your body, the environment, and most of all, animals. Be sure to leave a review and rating of the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show.